Good morning as we continue into the Chumash of the day, Parshas Mishpatim, portion of the Jewish law, oral law between man and man. Continue on chapter 21, verse number 20. Yaki Ishes Avde, the man will strike his servant, Oyamase, or his maidservant, Bashavet, with a rod, Vames, Tachas Yodeh, and the servant will die from his injuries. Nakim Yanakim, he shall surely be avenged. Now she says again, the text is referring to Canaanite slaves, or perhaps is referring only to a Jewish slave. How do you know which slave is talking? It doesn't say clearly. To clarify this, you have to go to a different verse in the Torah. The Torah says, because he's your property. When it comes to a Goyish slave, not a Canaanite slave, the Torah says it's your property. A Jewish person never becomes a property from somebody else. So just as his property is his permanent acquisition, so to a slave. That's why a Jewish slave goes out at 6 years. A non-Jewish slave that is bought doesn't have a 6-year concept because it becomes the property, so to say, of the person that bought it. And that's the law when it comes to buying a Canaanite slave. So does the property permanent acquisition, so to a slave in question, one who's permanent acquisition. Now, was he the one who kills a slave, not including who strikes a man, he shall die? So what is the meaning? If a person kills somebody, the slave is a person too. So what is the meaning? Why would you separate a slave from the law of murder of a regular person? This verse was written, came to exclude him, the owner of a slave, from the general rule. To be judged in the law of a day to day, meaning that if he's not died under his hand, but lingered an entire 24-hour period, he's exempt. You have to go to the Gemara to learn all these laws. Bashevet is a rod, refers to a rod that is significant weight and strength to kill somebody. Or perhaps that's not so, but the master is liable even if the rod does not have the sufficient weight and strength to kill. Therefore, the Torah was concerned with an Israelite. When the Torah talks about killing a Jew, it says, one who strikes him with a stone that can be held in his hand from which he may die, or he strikes him with a wooden instrument that can be held in his hand in which he may die. Now, could this matter be understood as a kavachem? Major to a minor. If in the case of a Jew, you kill a Jew, case that which you treated more stringently, one is not liable unless he strikes the victim with an article sufficient weight and strength to kill somebody. And the blow is on an organ that could cause death. How much more so in the case of a slave, in which is treated more lenient, that if you take something, that you have to have something, you have to kill the guy with a concept, with something that has the capability of murder, to kill somebody. If I hit a guy with a feather and he happens to die, that is unintentional murder. Nakim yinakim, misa sayif. This is death by the sword, decapitation, and so does the Torah say, a sword avenging the vengeance of the cup. So if a person, you kill somebody, even if it's a slave, you put to death. But if he survives for a day or two and he dies, he should not be avenged because he's your property. She says if your survival exempts him for 1 day, what is it? Why did the Torah say 2 days? Why is it murder mayim written? Rather, it must be said, speaking that one, which is as if it's 2. And what kind of day is that? A full 24-hour period. It means, in essence, it doesn't make a difference a day. A day can start at 12 o'clock in the afternoon until the next 12 o'clock, so it goes into 2 days. But it's really one 24-hour period. The Torah wants to give the guy, needs to be a 24-hour period. I mean, the person survived 24 hours, then maybe he didn't die from this action. Other complications. Well, you could kikaspe, but if someone else struck him, even if he lingered 24 hours before he died, the person that is liable, if another guy kills him, he's still liable for that death. Verse 22. If men shall quarrel. And on this situation, they hit a pregnant woman. They were fighting, and they punched this woman. And she had a miscarriage because of this action. But there's no fatality. The mother did not die. So we had a miscarriage, the death of a child. God forbid. So he will be punished, self-understood. But he's according to what the husband makes demand upon him. And he shall give restitution according to the judges. So he has to pay monetary. It's a monetary issue. It's not a life and death issue. A child in the mother's stomach is not considered a life and death issue. Them are one with the other, and intent to strike his fellow. Instead, he struck the woman. Benakfu, nag negif, an expression of pushing or striking. Tigayf, and you can go look at the Gemara. These are very difficult laws. There's not a fatality in the woman. If they killed the woman, God forbid, then there's a punishment of death. But they didn't kill the woman. The child, God forbid, died. Anishalish, to pay the value of a fetus to the husband. So you have to pay the value of a fetus. The assessor, how much she's valued to be sold in the market, increasing her value because of her pregnancy. Then, how did they evaluate a person those days? Those days, there was a sale, there was a slave market, and you bought a person to their value. A young person was valued more, an older person was valued less. A pregnant person was valued at a certain value because when you bought a pregnant person, you automatically bought a child. So how much is a pregnant woman valued to a non-pregnant? How much is a man valued? That's at least the value. That was the value of people. Later on, we have the Torah says if somebody takes a value on himself for the temple, or what's the value? But this is the value of damages. How do they value if somebody got for cut your hand, cut a hand off? They would value how much a slave is worth with one hand, how much a slave is with two hands. So you know the value in that age, in that market. That's how you used to value in those days. The court figures out how much she's worth, sold as a pregnant slave. When the customer would take into account the prospect of the slave would bear and her value as a slave without pregnancy, the sailor must pay the difference between the two amounts. So that's the difference. A regular slave is $100. She's a pregnancy, it's worth $200, so it's $100. So the baby, in essence, has a value of $100. So this is a monetary punishment. Because a baby, as we learned yesterday already, a baby is not murdered until after 30 days of even after birth. The baby needs to have 30 days to be considered a viable human being. That's why we have a pidyon haben on the 31st day. When the husband sues him, the sale in court, and levies upon a punishment. But he gives them the value of the fetus. Biflilim, what is it? Biflilim over here means according to the verdict of the judges. Verse 23, if the God forbid be a fatality, the woman will die through the actions of the person that hit her. But nisat nefesh tachas nefesh, that's murder. So you give a soul for a soul. Now she says with the woman, nisat nefesh tachas nefesh. This is the argument because it's unintentional murder. Our rabbis differ in this matter. Some say that he must actually give up his life, and some say he must pay money, but not actually life. And if one intends to kill one person and kills another, he's exempt from death penalty. So this is a difficult question in the Gemara, because we know this is an unintentional murder. He was fighting with his friend. Yanko was fighting with Shimon, and he punched this woman. He was not interested in the woman. The woman happened to pass at that moment when these two guys were fighting. So we know in Jewish law, you're not put to death unless it's intentional murder. So this was an accident. He might have to go to the city of refuge, but he's not. So it's a whole Gemara, a whole argument in the Gemara. What is the meaning of this pasuk when we know that intentional murder is not nefesh tachas nefesh? And it's a very interesting expression, Vesata nefesh tachas nefesh over here, because it would say Maisuma. That's the normal way of saying the pasuk. Vim asi here, Maisumas. Put him to death. He's a murderer. Torah uses the word of nefesh tachas nefesh. So it's not usual expression of the Torah when it comes to murder. So therefore, some rabbis all done. Just like it says later, nefesh taf ayin tachas ayin, life for life, a soul for soul, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It doesn't mean the actual situation. It means you have to give money. It's a monetary issue. So exempt from death penalty must pay his victims the value and should be sold the market. Therefore, he might have to be sold as a slave. Okay, this is the Gemara. You can look at Masechta Sanhedrin. A lot on the Gemara on this. Ayin tachas. Here you have the expression ayin tachas ayin, shen tachas shen, yad tachas yad, regel tachas regel, a life for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, a foot for a foot. It's interesting. The Torah puts it over here again. It's not the only time the Torah says this. But the Torah over here puts it, when we say there's an asain, there was a tragedy. So why would the Torah say foot for a foot, hand for a hand? That's what the Chacham say, that we're talking here about monetary. The person blinds his neighbor's eye, he must give the value of an eye. Ayin tachas ayin does not mean an eye for an eye, which is how much his price is. Again, how much you price sell a guy in the marketplace with one eye or two eyes. So is the meaning of all of them. All injuries enumerated in the following verse, but not the actual amputation of a limb. You don't take off a limb for a limb. As our rabbis interpreted Tasha Chovel, you can look at the Gemara Baba Kama, and you can learn the Gemara there, how the rabbis prove that does not mean an eye for an eye. Kiva tachas kiva, burn for a burn. Petza tachas petza, wound for a wound. Chabura tachas chabura, a bruise for a bruise. Rashi says kiva is a burn caused by fire. Rashi probably alludes to the makve eish later on. Until now, the Torah spoke about injuries that decrease the value of the victim, and now of an injury that does not decrease the value of the victim, as the slave can cause value as a slave, but cause pain. I burn a guy, he doesn't. Baruch Hashem, he'll get healed. You make a chabura, you give him a black and blue, he's not going to lose his hand, but he has pain. But causes pain. For instance, his assailant burnt him, the victim on the nails or with a spit. The judge can read how much of money a person is likely to be willing to endure such pain. Petza, Rashi says, a wound that bleeds, where he wounded his victim's flesh. All according to the wound is, if decreases in value, his assailant must pay the damages. If he falls into idleness, he gets sick. He may pay for him that he has no job, for healing, shame, and pain. These are verses superfluous because there's no difference between a wound and a burn, where the damage inflicted he must pay. In chapter Achayiv and Baba Kama, the Gemara, the rabbis interpreted to making it one liable for a victim's pain, even where there is permanent damage, which he must pay for. Because although he pays the victim for the value of his hand, we do not exempt him from paying for pain. Nezek tsar ripuy sheves. Nezek tsar. One of the payments of Torah is tsar. So even though I'm paying for the damages, I still got to pay for the tsar, for the pain. That's going to have to be evaluated. How much is the pain? Reasoning that since the assailant purchased his victim's hand, and giving the victim payment of its value, he made it amputated if he wants to. We say, however, that it should be that he should amputate it with a medication that lessens his pain. However, if he cuts it off with an iron implement and causes him pain, let's give the victim compensation. Habura is in general a blow in which the blood collects a black and blue mark, but does not come out. That's a chabura. It's only redness of the flesh on that spot. Term chabura is equivalent to the French meaning of a spot, like or a leopard in its spots, chaburesav. The American translation is mishkufe, an expression of beating, meaning beating, knocking. Translation says kidum shikofen, which means beaten by the wind. Similarly, on the mashkeif, concept of beating. Verse 26, if a man strikes the eye of his maidservant, or the eye of his maidservant, and God forbid he hurts him, that he destroys the eye. If you hurt your servant, you have to let him free. Now she says, we're talking about a Canaanite, and we learned this already in the previous Rashi. We're talking about a non-Jewish slave. But a Jewish slave does not go out by tooth and by an eye. He goes out in 6 years or the year of Jubilee. Tachas Einai. Now she says that you learn the Gemara, you'll see that there are 24 tips of the limbs. Fingers, the toes, the 2 ears, the nose, the head of the male organ, and all the 24 different kinds of things that are called that you hurt the servant's limb. The Torah could have mentioned only one because it has mentioned the eye and did not mention the tooth. I would say just as the eye is created with him at birth, so too everything that needs to be created with him at birth, but the tooth was not created him at birth. Therefore, I would say that if a master knocked out his slave's tooth, the slave would not be free. If it mentioned the tooth and not the eye, I would say that if the master knocked out a baby tooth, which had been replaced by natural growth, or another tooth, the slave would be freed. Therefore, it mentions an eye, something that cannot be replaced, to teach us that the master knocked out a baby tooth, the slave is not turned. That's why the Gemara learned why the Torah needs to tell us a tooth and an eye, because we learn from both of them this law. You need to knock off something that doesn't grow back. You cut the slave's hair, you don't go free, because this hair, Baruch Hashem, grows back. Whether it was a tooth of his his servant, or the tooth of his mate, Yapil, Lachavshi, Yeshalchena Tachashin. If you do that, you knock out his tooth, you give him a punch, and you knocked out his tooth, the slave is now free. Verse 28. If a bull gores a man and a woman, vames, and the person dies. So now we have a problem. Because it's not the person that killed somebody, the person's bull. So number one, the bull needs to be killed, needs to be stoned. You're not allowed to eat its flesh. But the owner of the bull isn't clear. He's not a murderer. She says this law refers to whether it's a bull or a domesticated animal or a bird. Text is usually occurs. The bull is usually gores. The Torah uses a lashon that usually that is a gorer, that is a bull. Sorry, the implication is that bull should surely be stoned. Don't know you're not allowed to eat a stoned animal. So why does the Torah tell us you're not allowed to eat the meat? If you stone an animal, wasn't shechted, you're surely not allowed to eat the meat. So that the carrion is forbidden to eat. For what purpose did the Torah say, and the flesh does not be eaten? So here it comes to tell us another law. This is to inform us that even if one slaughtered it, the guy says, you know what, my cow is going to be stoned. You know what? I'll take it to the shlachtais. I'll shech the animal. And now we'll eat the animal because it's shechted. The animal's dead. What's the difference if I stone him or I shecht him? He's dead. Torah tells us that once it was sentenced, even if I took it, I schlepped it to the shlachtais and I killed the animal, I shechted the animal is still unkosher. It's forbidden to eat. How do we know that no benefit may be derived from it, that animal that was sentenced to death? Therefore, the Torah says the owner of the bull is naki. As one says to his friend, so-and-so lost his property and was cleaned out of his property. And he has no benefit from it. Bal naki, he's empty. He's not have any kind of pleasure from this meat, from this animal. It has to be destroyed, burnt, whatever they did with the animal. This is the Madashik meaning. Its simple meaning is that the parent meaning, since it was concerning a habitual gorer. So in the Gemara we have an habitual gorer, we have an unhabitual gorer. It's called a tam and a muad. And also the owner shall be put to death. Later you're going to see. Next verse. It says if you're a habitual gorer, the Torah says the owner also is punished. It had to say the case of a tam, and the owner bull is clear of charges. The tam is unhabitual gorer, is a bull that did not gore habitually. That's 3 times of these. But only once or twice In the case of the bull that killed a person, this bull is put to death, but the owner is clear. He does not have any pay ransom. He doesn't pay ransom means he doesn't have to pay a knas. We'll soon see the next verse. Should the bull gore 3 times, it's called a muad. Muad means a bull that is an habitual gore. He was warmed already. He was a bull already 3 times. If the 4th time it gores, it kills somebody, it's liable to death, and its owner is liable to death by the hands of heaven. In order to clear himself from punishment, he must pay, which is called, as you'll soon see, kesev. He has to pay a ransom, as it's brought down in the next verse 29 and 30. But if this bull is an habitual bull, he gored 3 times, and the owner was warned, you have a pit bull in your house, you have a bull in your house that's goring people. And the owner says, I'm not going to watch it. And it goes and it kills. Isha. Kills a man or a woman. The animal needs to be stoned. The gambal of Yumas, and the owner needs to be must die. This is a very interesting word, because as Rashi will say, the Gemara explains this word. So we're talking about 3 gorings. That's what it says, Metelshir, 3 days. It gored 3 times. Denoting a warning in front of the witness has told the owner, listen, your ox is goring. It gored yesterday, it gored the day before, it gored the day before. It has gored 3 times. You need to lock this ox up. But he didn't. And it goes out. Since it's stated the bull gores, I know that the bull is liable to death. It kills him, its victim, by goring with its horns. If it killed it through biting, shoving, kicking, how do we know that it must be killed? Therefore, the Torah says it's put to death. Behemoth ish. Doesn't make a difference how he put him to death. You might say, oh, he didn't go today. Today he kicked the guy. Yesterday he gored. Today he kicked. Day before he bit a guy. Doesn't make a difference. This animal is an aggressive animal. The gambal of Yumas, Rashi says, doesn't mean death by man. B'dei shamayim, it means death by the hands of God. I might think the verse means that he's put to death by man. How do you know? You must. It says he should be put to death. So how do you know that the verse means from God? Therefore, the Torah states the assailant should surely be put to death. He is a murderer, implying for his act of murder he must be killed. A person is killed when he kills somebody. A person is put to death when he physically himself puts another person. This is not him. This is his ox. And you cannot be put to death by the action of your ox, even if he's a mu'id. And that's why you have the next verse. Vim kaifa yusha salam. If a ransom shall be leave it upon him. He should give the redemption of his soul to whatever the court will put upon him. So Rashi says, im over here is not meaning conditionally as conditional, but as when you lend money. When the word meaning that his sentence is that the court levies a ransom. The court says you have to pay for the action of your bull. But the second he pays, this means the value of the victim as a slave. This is the view of Rabbi Shmuel. The Rabbi Akiva says the value of the damager, the owner of the bull. This is a whole machlekes with Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel. You can look with the Gemara. The question is the value of the nizik, the value of the mazik. There's a big argument in the Gemara in general. What does the Torah mean? How much the value? The value of the guy who was hurt, the value of the one who did the hurt. Kupidya nafshe. You say that the value of his soul. So he has to evaluate what he is. His soul. He's redeeming himself. So according to one, it means Rabbi Kiva say debei mazik. It has to be the value of his soul, and Rabbi Shmuel says it has to be the value of the person that the ox gore. It's a whole argument of the Gemara, and you can go and learn Gemara. Whether he killed a young boy or killed a young girl, Kamishpat hazeh yasel, according to the ordinance, according to the law which I said, you shall do to him. So Rashi says, whether it's a son or minor, a bat shikitana, it's a daughter, it's a minor. Since it says, and you put to death a man or a woman, I might think that the bull is liable only killing adults. Therefore, it says, if it goes a young boy, to make one liable for a minor as to an adult. Doesn't make a difference. Once a kid is 30 days and older, there's no difference. Once a child, whether a boy or a girl, is 30 days and older, he's considered, there's no difference in the aspect of murder whether it's a cotton or it's a child or adult. Continue on verse 32. If the bull gores the maidservant, somebody else's yankel's gore kills Shimon's maidservant. Maid or maidservant, slave. Kasser shleishim shkalim. Over here, the Torah gives a value. And nobody knows why the Torah over here gave a value. As Rashi says, 30 shkalim yitl adanav asher yisaka. He has to pay 30 shekel. In Evidam, Canaan, we're talking about Canaanite slaves. Shleishim shkalim, gzeres akasim. This gzeres, nobody knows why the Torah says suddenly a value. Whether that slave it was worth 1,000 zuz, whether it was worth more than a dinner, just a penny, it doesn't make a difference. The Torah here's a gzeres akasim. It said 30 shekel. Nobody knows why. The guy lost a slave that was worth 1,000 zuz. Not a phenomenal slave. Doesn't make a difference. Why the Torah says that? Nobody knows. The weight of a shekel is a 4 pieces of gold, which is equal to a half an ounce according to official weight of cologne in France. Verse 33. Now the Torah tells us another law: if you open up a pit, you dig a pit, and you're in the public property. You didn't dig a pit in your house. You went out in the Lions Road and you dug a pit, and you didn't cover it over. And they fell into this pit an ox or a donkey. Rashi says, whether you didn't dug it, you just uncovered it, is also considered digging. Which you covered, he uncovered it. A yichla. Why is it stated if you're liable for opening a pit, isn't it true you should be liable for digging a pit? But this includes a digger, one who digs deeper. After the digger, he's liable. So you have to dig a pit a certain 10 tvachim. Learn the Gemara, it has to be 10 tvachim. If Yankel came and dug it 9 tefach, and Shimon comes and digs 1 tefach more, he's considered the one who dug the pit. And that's what the Torah tells us these two concepts. So if one digs a 9 handbreadth, and which is capable of injuring animal but not killing it, another digs 1 handbreadth more, making open pit capable of killing an animal. The second digger is liable for this case. Why does the Torah say he didn't cover it? Because if he did cover it, he's exempt from paying damages. Let's say he covered it and the animal came, kicked it off. I covered it. The ankle covered it. Now she says this applies to all domestic animals and beasts. Whenever it says a bull and a donkey, we derive that it's all domestic animals through a gzeira shava. Similar to the word shur, which is in the law concerning Shabbos. It states in order that your bull and your donkey will rest. Just as there is referring to Shabbos, every domestic animal and beast is like a bull in reference to that law. So to whatever it says, shur, achamar, it means every animal. You shall not perform work with neither you nor your son or your animals. Here too, all animals, beasts are in the bull in this law. The bull and donkey are mentioned only to understand that the bull that falls into a pit, the owner is liable, but not the man who falls into a pit. That he's liable, a donkey, but not the utensil. We learned the 2 words, the Gemara learns that if the yankel, saying, I don't want to say that word, if yankel digs a pit, if another person falls into it, he's not liable. You should watch where he's walking. It's an animal that falls into the pit. And number 2, that he's liable for the animal, but not for the utensils. The donkey is carrying utensils. He's not liable for your utensils. The owner of the pit shall pay. The Gemara says this is all Gemara. Bal Haber, the owner of the pit. Who's the owner of the pit? I dug a pit in Lions Road. I'm not the owner. The county is the owner of this road, but the Eibishter makes me the owner. The Eibishter God makes me. The Torah makes me the owner of that pit on Lions Road. Yeshalem Kesev Yoshel Bailav. He has to return the money to his owner. V'ames Yeloi, and the dead body shall be his. That's also a big problem. Who is his? Balaber, that's just Balakor. We're going to create the obstacle, meaning the pit. Although the pit is not his, for he made it in the public domain. The Torah made him the owner. And so far, he's liable for the damage. It's not his pit, but it becomes his pit. Keshev Yosel Bailav. Yashi says, includes anything worth the money, even brand. That's also a very interesting law that I can return Yankel that does damages. He doesn't have to give the guy cash. He can give him anything. Give him shmatas. The Yankel could give the guy he damaged a bunch of shmatas brand. The best fields, the best vineyard, he shall return. Then you have the concept in the halacha that says you have to return the best. So there's different halachas when you have to return the best field, or you can return anything you want. Rashi explains to me the damage is paid the best land. Rav Huna, Rav Yeshu, in the Talmud, you can learn the Gemara solves that the parent discrepancy, but concluded applied only the defendant prefers to pay damages with his land. But if it prefers to pay removable objects, you have the difference between karika, land, and movable objects like money or utensils. So if you pay with land, there's different laws. If I pay with movable objects, I can pay with anything. Everything is deemed best. Because it can't be sold here, it can be sold elsewhere. The dead animal belonged to the owner who sustained the damage. This is also a big argument in the Gemara. They assess the carcass, and he, the owner, takes it for its value, and the damager pays him in addition to the carcass payment for his damages. So we evaluate. He lost $1,000. That this cow was worth $1,000. Say now it's worth $500. You keep the carcass. That's $500, and you pay $500. And the yankel pays him $500, and that's how you evaluate. So a messiah loy can be that you pay $1,000, and you keep the guy who made the bird. He keeps the carcass. Okay, verse 35. Ish. If a man's bull strikes his friend's bull. Now, we're talking about a bull goring another bull. So Yankel's bull gored Shimon's bull, Vames, and he died. You shall sell the live bull, the chotzer is kaspe, and divide the money received from it. They shall also divide the dead body of the bull. Rashi says this is a very difficult case. As you'll soon see, Rashi will try to hope I can do it. Also, Rashi explains enough. The Chiyagav Yitzchak shoves it either with his horns or with his feet or whatever, bits him with his teeth. Again, any of these aspects of the cow hurting another cow doesn't only mean with its horns. Shayrish, shalish, a shayr that belongs to a man. Umachas asher achai. Rashi says, the Rashi brings the Gemara. Scripture is speaking about two bulls of equal value. A bull worth 200 zuz that killed a bull worth 200 zuz. Whether the carcass is worth much or a little. When this one takes half the value of the live bull and half the value of the dead one, the result is that each one must sustain half of the damage of the death afflicted upon him. Half. It's a tam. We're talking about a non-goring bull, so he pays 50%. We learn that a tam bull pays half of the damage. Or from equal ones, the bull, equal value, we learn how it is with the unequal bull, an unequal value. For the law of a tam bull is to pay half of damage, no more or less. Perhaps even the unequal when they are alive. Therefore, Scripture mandates that they sell both and divide the proceeds of the sale between them. This cannot be true, since if you say that sometimes the damager would gain the dam would gain very much, or sometimes the victim would receive much more than the amount of the complete damage. For half of the value of the damaging bull may exceed the entire value of the bull that was damaged. What the guy who the Yankel's bull, who's the gorer, is worth $10,000, and the bull that he gored was worth $50. So now you're gonna give him You're gonna give him $5,000 for my bull because my bull gored. The guy's gonna gain a lot of money. Doesn't make sense, this law. So therefore, you have to. She says we have to dafka be talking in a case that was exactly value to value. If you say that the law regarding tamvul is more stringent than the law regarding the habitual gorer, which is illogical, you're compelled to say that the Torah is referring only to the one bull the equal value. It teaches you that the tam bull pays half a damage. And from the law concerning equal ones, you learn about unequal ones. That if one bull is awarded half of his damages, the court assesses the carcass, and the decrees of the value due to the death. He receives half of the depreciation and leaves. That's it. So if a guy Yankel's bull gores Shimon's bull that was worth $1,000 or $100, he pays $50. That's it, not more. To teach us that the tam bull pays only with its body, and if it gores and subsequently dies, the owner who sustained the damage receives only the carcass, and if it does not equal half of the damages, he has a loss. Or if the bull is worth a mana, 100 zuz, and it gores a bull worth 500 zuz, he, the owner, receives only half from the tam bull did not been obligated to obligate the owner to pay for the best of his property more than half. Now we're talking about a aggressive bull, verse 36. If you have an aggressive bull, an habitual gorer, gored already 3 times, and the owner did not watch this bull, now he has to pay full damages. And the dead body belongs to him. Again, now if he's not a tam, but he's known that he's a habitual goring bull today and from the yesterday and from the day before, totaling 3 gorings, shalim yeshalim shar nezek shalom, he has to pay complete damages. Nezek shalom. Now she says again, the Gemara, the victim, it belongs to the victim, the dead body. So you have to evaluate how much he gets for the dead body. In addition to that, the damage must complete it until the victim is paid the entire damage due to him. Verse 37. If a man will steal a bull or a sheep, and he will slaughter it or sell it, he has to pay 5 times the value of the ox, and 4 times the value of the land. Look at the beautiful Rashi. Learned something from this. If a guy steals a sheep, or he steals the Torah makes a difference between an ox and a sheep. Said, God had considered the honor of a ganef. For a bull which walks on its own feet, the thief is not disgraced by carrying it on his shoulders. He pays 5-fold. For a lamb which a thief carries on its shoulders, he pays only 4-fold because he's disgraced by it. Ameir said, come and see how great the power of work is. For a thief of a bull which causes the owner to stop working, the thief pays 5. For a lamb which not cause the owner to stop working, the thief. So each one learned something out of the. Rabbi Yechon Mizake came to learn the beauty of that. The Eibushter even honors a thief, so to say, that he didn't have to work so hard, or it's about the owner. Tachas asher, tachas aser. Scripture Torah separates them, mentioning the bull and the lamb to tell us that the rule is a 4-fold or 5-fold payment applies only to a bull and to a lamb. It's Xeris interesting law that dafka, bull and a lamb that you steal, you have to pay 4 or 5-fold. This is a Torah law. Chapter 22, verse number 1. Here we have a new law. if while breaking in, this is also beautiful Gemara and Gemara Sanhedrin. If a guy Yankel breaks into Shimon's house, and while he's breaking in, he's caught. Shimon catches him, and he kills him. Ein le damim, he has no blood. Now she says, we're talking while he's breaking into the house. Ein le damim. Now she says, this tell us he's not considered a murderer. It is though the thief was considered dead at the start. From here we learn, Torah teaches us, if someone comes to kill you, you kill him first. And this one thief, even though he's a thief, we're not talking about a murderer. This guy came to steal. So why are you calling him a murderer? So the Rashi says, the Gemara says, this teaches us, if a thief has come to kill you because he knows that no one can hold back and remain silent when he sees people taking his money. So the thief knows that's why he's sneaking into your house. He knows that Shimon knows that Yankel's not going to let him take his money. Therefore, the thief has come with the knowledge that if the owner of the property will stand up against him, he would kill him. So therefore, he's a dead man walking, so to say. But verse says number 2, but if the sun shines upon him, then he has blood. Shalim, he shall surely pay. If he doesn't have money, he should be sold for his stealing. What does that mean? That the sun is shining upon him. This is nothing more but a metaphor, meaning if the matter is clear that the thief is peaceful, exposed toward the similar as the sun, which represents peace in the world, that you know that the Ganev is not coming to kill you. How do you know that? So if the owner of the money rises against him, and says if a father breaks into his son's property, then the kid knows the father is not out to kill him. This is interesting. Gemara says if a father breaks into his son's property, then we know that it's not out to kill him. But if a son breaks into a father's property, lav dafke, maybe he will kill him. It's known the father has mercy upon his son, and it would not come to idea to murder him. Damim, actually, the thief is considered a live person and is not considered a murderer. The property owner kills him. Shalim Ishanim, actually, the thief shall pay the money he stole, and he is not liable to death. The thief is considered to have a sentence to death in case where the property owner is allowed to kill him. In these cases, this is another interesting law. Come we're in the Gemara that if a person is liable for death, then he's not liable for monetary issues. So if he breaks, like if a Ganav comes in the middle of the thing and he breaks utensils in your house, since he's liable for death, he's not liable for utensils. And we learned all this. So Shalim Yishalim, when the father breaks into his kid's house and he breaks utensils while he's trying to steal, he's liable for those utensils because he's not a walking dead person, so he's liable for the utensils. So the thief is considered to have been sentenced to death in case the property owner is allowed to kill him. In these cases, he's exempt from any monetary obligation incurred when dug into your house. Cases where the property owner may kill him, however, the thief is not considered liable for death, and thus he must pay for what he stole. Onkelos, who renders the eye for witness, if the eye of the witnesses fell upon him, adopts another view saying that if witnesses discovered him, the thief, before the property owner, and then the property owner came against him, and they warned him not to kill him, the thief is considered as if he has blood, meaning he, the owner, is liable for him, the thief, if he kills him. Because since he's committed his crime, when people can see him, this thief has not come intention of murder and would not kill the property owner. So that's why the Torah is talking about a situation where the guy is digging a hole through your house. Verse number 3. If the stolen articles found in his possession, from an ox to a donkey, or he said to a lamb, he shall pay twofold. Now she says, he finds it in your property. He didn't sell it, he didn't kill it. I mean, he didn't sell it or kill it. Everything is included, this obligation to make a twofold payment, whether it's a living thing or something that is not alive. But it says elsewhere, for a lamb, for a garment, for any article, shall pay his neighbor twice. Chayim shnayim yishalem, and he shall not pay him dead ones, ela chayim. He has to either live ones or value of live ones, he has to pay double. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya today. We are in the in chapter 25 of Tanya. Rebbe just ended yesterday. That a person, we find that a person would not chas v'shalom worship Avodah Zarah, God forbid, even though the person can say echte v'ashiv, the person can say I'll do tshuva. So there's always an option, but people don't. You wouldn't take such an option. Nobody would take the option to do tshuva. When it comes to Avodah Zarah, you're not gonna say I'll do tshuva, even though you could do tshuva. You can do tshuva right away. Why? Because a person would not take such an option when it comes to Avodah Zarah. A person would never take an option of doing tshuva when it comes to Avodah Zarah. That's the way Yidden with Meiser Nefesh throughout history, they gave up their life not to worship Avodah Zarah, not to worship idols, even if they had an option. Even if they had an option to do tshuva. So why would a person not take the option of Avodah Zarah to do tshuva, and they'll give up their life? When the same thing, you shouldn't don't use any loopholes when it concerning any Avodah that comes in your way, any sin that comes in your way. Don't take any options. You know what? I'll do the sin. Why? Because I'll do tshuva. I'll rectify it later. Why would you take an option? There's no option when it comes to, you didn't take a Jew will not take an option when it comes to idol wish. You shouldn't take the option any other time. And why wouldn't you take the option? Why does a Jew doesn't take the option when it comes to Avodah Zarah? Because he doesn't want to get cut off from God. That's the reason. He doesn't want to cut off from God for that moment, even though he can rectify it the next moment, later on. Because a Jew does not want to be separate from God. That's the reason. So if you take that reason, if you understand that reason why you're ready to give up your life, not to bow down to an idol, because you don't want any options, because right now you don't want to be cut off from God. And that's the reason why you're not going to bow down to an idol. So therefore, you can use the same reason for any concept in Yiddishkeit. Whether it's a davar shebekal, that's what he says in the Mishnah. Don't evaluate something that is important or not important. The Mishnah doesn't say why. The Alter Rebbe tells you why. Because there's no difference between what you think is a simple Aveda and a harsh Aveda in the concept of being cut off from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, cut off from God. The second I do an Aveda, whether it's a simple Aveda, I'm cut off at that moment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And why would a Jew want to be cut off from God? As the Alter Rebbe would always say, a Yid nishta vil or nishta ken. A Jew really doesn't want, and he really cannot be cut off from God. So why would you rationally do a davar shtus? Why would a person do a moment of insanity to do a sin, God forbid, and cut himself off on HaKadosh Baruch Hu at that moment, even though he can fix it even a moment later? But right now, this moment, at this second, I'm cut off from God. And inside, in this concept, whether it's going away for something bad or whether it's doing a mitzvah actually even more, because I can connect myself to God. Why would I not want to connect to God? Oh, we could do it a minute later. But this minute, why do I want to not connect to God? Why wouldn't I want to be connected to God this moment? I know I could do it later. That's why mitzvah bali yatcha. Al tachmitzena. A mitzvah comes to your head, you shouldn't push it away. Why? You could do it in a minute later. But this minute, I'm not talking about a minute later. I'm not talking about the minute after, before. I'm talking about this moment. This moment, I want to be connected to God. This moment, I don't want to be sundered from God. I don't want to be separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I doubt that Ebbe says, we know the Gemara says, we know the Gemara says that if a person says in general, Echte, I will sin, V'asher, I'll do tshuva. I have the loophole. Don't worry. There's Yom Kippur coming one day. I'll do tshuva tomorrow morning. So I'll sin right now. Echte, I'll sin v'asher. Ain't must speaking. The Gemara says, a person that says, Echte, I will sin, and I will do tshuva, ain't must speaking. We don't give an opportunity. What is this? So that's the opposite of what I just said. That in essence, the Gemara says that we don't let him do tshuva. That's the way we simply in the Gemara. The Echte person says, I will sin, v'ashiv, I will do tshuva. Ain't must speak him. We don't give him the opportunity. We don't let him. I know Shei Marzik in Yadei. The Gemara says, after that says, the meaning of Gemara is that not that he can do tshuva. We don't give him an opportunity. Maybe doesn't help him do tshuva. And Marzik in Yadei means that merely that God does not aid such a sinner. What you're gonna do, sin, and I'm gonna help you do tshuva. To give an auspicious occasion to repent. Generally, God grants one wishes to repent, the necessary power and the opportunity moment to realize his good intention. However, one who relies to tshuva, formed on the basis of a sin, he says, you know what, I'm going to sin because I can do tshuva. I'm going to be sin. Why am I sinning right now? Because I know I have a loophole. I have tshuva. I always have the safety net. I have the safety. Why can't I jump? There's a safety net. So the safety net is tshuva. So a person in Gemara says, no. The Eibusha says, I'm not gonna help you out in this situation. I'm not gonna help you out to do tshuva. Avalim dochach asha va'asa tshuva. But if somebody sizes it, he grabs the opportunity himself. He decides, you know what? I want to do tshuva. Ain't dava, ain't tshuva. Nothing stands before tshuva. Nothing stands before tshuva. Nothing stands to repent. We always can repent. Even if I said echte v'ashiv, even if I said I'm going to sin because I'm going to do tshuva, if I really want to do tshuva, I can repent. Even for those avedas. Thus, even in the case of idolatry, one could conceivably rely on tshuva to prevent him from separation of God. Nevertheless, Kol Ish Yisrael, nevertheless, every single Jew, Muzuman, is prepared, and is ready, Limser Nafsha K'dush Hashem, to give up his soul for the sake of sanctifying God's name. Not to bow down to idolatry, to bow down before an idol. I feel if he's shy even for a moment. Well, last is tshuva, intention to do tshuva. Nobody does that. Nobody will do that. Indicating that the fear of even a temporary separation from God is sufficient, motivating to self-sacrifice and put his life on the line. Why does a Jew do that? Why would every Jew be Meisei Nefesh? The reason is because of the divine light in every Jew. Hameluvish benafsh is a divine light. Every Jew has that red line, so to say. He has that red line. All Jews have Avodah Zarah. It's a red line. But we all have different lines. And we have that red line that we don't do because we are Jews and we have a godly soul. And that red line will not pass that red line. This red line, this soul, this godly soul pushes me. It has no time and space. This godly soul is above time. And the truth is, this godly soul rules over him. It does. It rules over us. We have a nefesh elokis that doesn't let us do things that we shouldn't do. And not because we understand it, not because we have loopholes, not because because we cannot do it. We can't do it. We just can't do it. Even though I'll tell you can do tshuva, and I can give you reasons, and a Jew won't do it. And therefore, in relation to this light, every action is eternal. That's why the Alter Rebbe says the best way to argue with your nefesh habahamis is say you have a nefesh elokis, because that he doesn't have an answer to. That he has no answer to. Everything else that you're going to argue with him, he has an answer. You're going to tell him, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't have enjoyment. He'll have an answer. When I tell my nefesh habahamis, my animalistic soul, I am a godly entity. How can I be cut off from God at this moment? I'm a godly entity. I'm a godly soul. Therefore, he would never do it. There's no answer. Nefesh habahamis is going to say, you're not a godly entity. You don't have a godly soul. You 100% do have a godly soul. So stop rationalizing with your nefesh habahamis and just tell him you're godly. You're ready to be mesa nefesh on Avodah Zarah, not to bow down to Avodah Zarah, whatever your red line is. You're surely ready to be, you're ready to do it. You're ready not to do the rest. Thus, an action which took but a moment and judged by temporal standards has no value and become more momentous than one which takes much longer. Since divine light clothed in the soul transcends and dominates time, it does not permit any separation from God, no matter how short this duration. So the godly soul, there's no time, there's no difference in whether you're going to be cut off from God a minute, a second, an hour. It's irrelevant to Kansa. It's to him, the godly soul, of separation. That's important. I don't want separation. I want connection. And therefore, my godly soul wants continuous connection, continuous relationship, and not a second of separation. And therefore, that's what I need to always express. I am a yid. I have a nefesh elokis. I have a godly soul that wants to be connected to God constantly, because it has no time. It has no space. It's unlimited. It's above understanding. It's all about connection, not about comprehension. It's about connection and relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It has an unlimited desire, an unlimited yearning, an unlimited capability. And therefore, don't put limits to it. Don't put rationalizations to it. Don't put lines to it. And that's the beauty that Alter Rebbe explains, that really we can rationalize things. We can come to not do a sin through rationalization, and we can come to do what is right because of one's essence, revealing one's godly soul, connecting to one's truth, which we all know is true, and there's nothing else that can deny it. And therefore, that's the best way. That will be the best way we can connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and accomplish what we all need to do, which is the concept of sur merah, v'asei tov, go away from evil and do good. Again, not only because what's going to be the repercussions in the future, but actually what's going to happen in the present, in the right now, in this moment. If I do sur merah, I go away from the negative, and I do good, I connect my neshama, my godly soul becomes united with HaKadosh Baruch Hu at this moment. And that's the greatest accomplishment that you could accomplish in this moment. That completes the Tanya for today. And today is the 26th day of the month, which is the second part of Kuf Yutes from the letter Mem till the end of the chapter Kuf Yutes. If you do that part of Tilim, you would do the Chitas of the day. Wish you all a good day, a happy day, a healthy day, a wonderful day. And Hashem, we'll see each other tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the chitas of the day.
Shabbat shalom.